Minister made that announcement a short while ago. Our reporter Sipho Stuurman is there. Sipho, good afternoon to you. It appeared that the buck was being passed back to universities in that briefing. Sipho.
Good afternoon to you, Natasha. Indeed, the announcement here really means that the rich must pay for fee increments for 2017, and those who cannot afford will be subsidized by government. They did try to break it down for us, meaning that the students that are currently on NFSAs, the increment for 2017 will be subsidized by government, and students that are deemed the missing middle with an family income of up to 600,000 rand per annum will also be funded by government. But it is quite important to clarify when it comes to this group, the missing middle, that they are not funding their studies. They are funding the gap that would have been created by the fees increment that will be implemented by universities. Of course, we don't know how much is the percentage that each university will implement, but government has recommended that it be kept at 8%. And now for some student reaction, I know that my colleague there in Johannesburg, some Wits students have already rejected this, and now I've got students from the University of Pretoria. Just to get a sense of what they thought of this. You guys were with me during the briefing. You heard the minister explaining himself. What is your response?
My colleagues are currently in a meeting with the Vice Chancellor as we speak, but we had said from the get-go, from the onset, 0% increment across the board until such a point where the Commission can give feedback. To pass this back to the universities and say the universities must decide based on their need is not what we wanted, it's not what we expected, and we're very unhappy with it.
When you say zero fee increment across the board, that also helps the students who can afford. I think what they were trying to say is that those who can afford must pay. Now, why would you then expect government to also take care of students whose parents can afford to fund them?
I understand the question. It's just a matter of government is not really, they're failing to define who is poor. I mean, they've said now that the missing middle is going to go up to a cap of 600,000, which is about 50,000 per month. But then there's also expenses that need to be considered into that. Again, what we had said earlier about what is the household income covering. So it's still failing to address the certain issues that are coming up from different families by saying that you guys are 600,000, so you're okay. I mean, if I'm getting 650,000 and you don't know what the household income is covering in terms of expenses, then there's still going to be a problem there. And it's still, what's going to happen next year? We're going to come back next year, we're going to do the same thing. That's where the issues are coming from. All
right, let me talk to Kabelo Mahlongwane now, the EFF Student Command at University of Pretoria. You wanted to ask a question there, but obviously they stopped you because this was a media briefing. What was your concern?
I wanted to clarify what my colleague has said in terms of the income of the middle class. There's expenses, so they haven't considered expenses. For someone who's getting 150,000 rands a year and has 3 students in varsity, is going to be very disadvantaged as compared to someone who's getting 600,000 rands with only 1 student. So the expense, our missing middle was not only based on the household income, there were also expenses inside. But we also wanted to ask now on, is the government still aware that our call was basically free education? We're not only addressing the issues of fee increments and all that. This was just to give the government a chance to find a model to fund a free education. So they're not giving us any clear route towards free education. What they're doing.
The minister has mentioned that this is an interim intervention, that we must await the outcomes of the fees commission, and that this is just in the meantime type of announcement. So you can see that they are trying to put steps in place to address the immediate fee concerns for 2017. So why are you not patient and working with the government in terms of waiting for the outcomes of the fees commission?
Last year when the president met student leaders at genuine buildings, this was the very same issue that we agreed on. This year again, and our problem is that we have students who are constantly being rejected from universities because of fees. We have about 3,000 students ahead of UP that have not been paid for by NSFAS, which means next year they're going to struggle, and some of those students are going to have to go back home and face the poverty that they're coming from. So as much as they're wasting time, students are being affected, and you cannot sacrifice student lives based on the delay of the government. We will not do that.
Okay, and just finally, so what are you saying to us is that you are rejecting this offer in its totality?
Obviously, as a student leader, I'm going to have to engage other student leaders. We're going to have to go back to campus and engage. But our agreement was not the one that the Minister of Higher Education announced today. So it means we are rejecting. But still, this is due to further engagements on campus with other student leaders. But you'll hear soon what's going to happen.
All right, well, that is the word here in Pretoria. I was speaking to some of the student leaders from University of Pretoria. They're saying that they are unhappy with this decision and that this is not the offer they had expected from the Minister of Higher Education, and that they will go back and engage and see a way forward in terms of dealing with this announcement that universities are allowed to increase fees up to 8%, but however, students on NFCs and students whose families earn an income of up to 600,000 per annum, that gap will be funded by government.
Thank you very much. Our reporter Sipho Stuurman keeping us up to date with what's happening in Pretoria after that announcement, and we'll keep you updated with all the developments of that story as the day progresses.